I think the first would say is don't take it personal. It's really easy to do. And it kind of where you were just talking about, like, I even say, like, have someone, whether on your deal team or we didn't have any fancy terms like that. It was just the people that I was talking to. That is very unemotional about the situation. And then it's also okay to have someone else that might be very emotional and get their perspective. So know who that you're going to, but don't take it personal, and then really find out who you can trust. Go into that, ask some questions, and make sure that whoever is part of who you're going to speak to wants to be a part of it. They're excited, and find out what your weaknesses are, and make sure that someone around you has an ability to complement those weaknesses. If you think you don't have any weaknesses, you've got another problem. But if you start figuring out those weaknesses, so you can have someone to help you fill those gaps, because you do. At the end of the day, we all are better in a team. We'll all accomplish more together than we will on our own. And then make it fun when you do it together.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to the How to Buy or Sell a Business Successfully podcast. The concepts discussed in this podcast are for informational purposes only. No attorney-client relationship is intended or formed by this podcast. No legal advice is intended in the substance of this podcast. Feel free to check out our website, www.goforemanlaw.com. Enjoy the show and welcome your hosts, Jake Wayman and Sam Foreman.
All right, welcome back to another episode. We're episode, I think, number like 60 now, I think. We're getting up there in years.
It feels like 100.
Yeah, no. We're getting better and better with age. I mean, it's just like aging like fine wine is how our podcast is getting, I believe.
We're aging like the finest boxed wine you've ever seen.
Anyways, my name's Jake Wayman.
I'll put a cork in.
Yeah.
The boxed wine. Pardon me while I get Jacob a solo cup for this fine wine that we're...
You're going to get me crying on this thing again and laughing. Yeah. Anyway, so my name's Jake Wayman. My wife and I are the proud owners of the Orange Theory Fitness franchises here in town. Also work for an investment bank called Infinity Capital Partners out of Oklahoma City. I help them drive new market development here in the Wichita market, and also do a little bit of work with my family's company, Citywide Facility Solutions. Best thing in my life right now is I know this may come out later, but over the Christmas break, we took our kids to a movie, and it was my 2 and 4-year-olds' first movie. It was Zootopia 2. Awesome movie. Highly recommend going to it. But I don't recommend getting the best seats where they're in the middle. Went to AMC. We sat in the middle, and my kids...
Rookie.
And my kids... obviously have to go to the bathroom a lot. And so that was eventful. They actually watched the movie, but I think I took probably like 15 bathroom breaks, I think. I don't know. It was fun though. We know now where to sit at when we go to the movies with our kids, on the edge. And
on the edge near the back.
Yeah. So anyways, but that's the best thing about it, was we got to take them to a movie for their first movie. Awesome. And so that was a lot of fun to have them experience that. So yeah. Anyways, joining with my incredible co-host, as always, Sam.
Hey, I'm Sam Foreman, founder of Foreman Law. Grateful to be here today. One of the best things going on in my life right now is our youngest is seeing some really good progress with his attitude. We've had like a number of years ago, he had like 2 years ago, he had a really bad C. diff. Bacterial infection, which for those who are familiar with it is vicious, and had to be hospitalized for like 5 days, and his personality like substantially changed after that. We're doing some things health-wise that we're finally seeing some progress on that front. Not all the progress that we'd like to see. I still take regular physical beatings from him, but tons of progress, and I'm really grateful for that right now. We're speaking of gratitude, we're really grateful to be joined by Lance Miller today. Lance, why don't you tell our guests about yourself and what's one of the best things going on in your life right now?
Yeah, so thankful I get to operate in a family business, Trinity Sales and Rental. We rent construction equipment in Wichita and surrounding areas, and just recently added on a location in Western Kansas as well. Outside of work, involved with a leadership development group called Impact Wichita. Creates collaborative environments for emerging leaders and existing leaders to get together, to coach one another and give opportunities for growth. and then also serve in a variety of capacities at our church, Reliance Community Church out west near Goddard. Do some music stuff with a lot of good friends out there, as well as my wife, Holly, and just some leadership things there as well. I'm going to go with two. I'm going to take two things today. Number one is we closed our new building for Wichita 3 days ago. So we're actually, thank you. Yeah. We've been out of space for about 7 years. It's a little embarrassing that it took us so long, but we're actually doing a walkthrough with our whole team together for the first time this afternoon.
Very cool.
That's
So
cool. That's awesome.
most of them have been through, but it'll be the first time for all of us to go. Mom and dad will be there. My wife's bringing the girls. They're young, so they're not in the business, but just kind of family and business together. So that's super exciting. And then secondly is my wife fell out of my truck a week and a half ago and hit her chin on the concrete, bad enough that we had to go to minor care. And the best thing about that is they didn't take me to jail. They believed the story. So.
Well, I hope that her recovery has been swift and complete. And what? I mean, I'm a little afraid to ask what happened that she fell out of the truck. Like, were you guys cruising around the parking lot like teenagers do, and she's like riding on the back?
Yeah.
No, she was alone. I wasn't present in this. She does some staging for realtors and design, stages houses for sale. And she was trying to unload a console table out of the back of the truck by herself. And she could have easily done it, but she was in a hurry and just took a face dive into the concrete.
Oh, that sucks. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, she's not real happy about it, but she did get the stitches out last night. So that's good.
Nothing but the teeth. The teeth are good?
Well,
Oh, okay.
the best part about this was like, I never not thought that I was like the calmest person, but she calls me to tell me what's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, babe, you're not doing well. Can you give the phone to our oldest? And I'm like, Emery, how's mom doing? Her teeth are falling out of her mouth. Okay, you're not the calmest either. Yeah. We went to the dentist the next morning. None of the teeth fell out of her mouth. She's going to go for a follow-up later and we'll see.
Yeah.
But yes, she still has all her teeth.
Yeah.
But she did bite down pretty hard and her teeth are hurting.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But they didn't fall out, so that's good. And whatever you do,
good.
don't listen to your wife or your 12-year-old daughter when they've fallen out of the back of the truck. Just go investigate for yourself.
Yeah.
Pro tip.
Yeah, pro tip.
No, that's
Very
great.
good.
That's great.
Well, if you have a chance, listen to our prior episode with Lance. He talks a lot about their family business and the transition and great content that's in there. But really today, what we're wanting to focus on with Lance is really the growth side of Trinity. And he mentioned in his intro a recent acquisition they did in Garden City. And so that's a lot of where we're going to spend our time today is in that process, because this podcast is about mergers and acquisitions, and growth by acquisition is a great place to be in when you have that opportunity to do that. So kind of start with like the, I don't know, Sam, if you want to throw out the first question. I just want to kind of tee that up a little bit. And
Yeah, I do. What are the winning lotto numbers for the Powerball? Second question is, and not the ones in the past, the ones in the future. Like,
Noted.
yeah. No, but how did you identify, that, first of all, that you wanted to grow through acquisition, but then also that, hey, this was a good opportunity that was more than just an interesting idea, but something that you all really wanted to explore?
Yeah. Good question. I think, as we discovered in the last conversation, we're all type 3s. So growth.
That's Enneagram, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. Growth has always just been something that I'm passionate about. Dad was passionate about, is passionate about it. And so listening to some of your guys' previous recordings, I realized that we approach this very different than probably what a lot do. We kind of had an easy runway because we were partnering with this business for 4 years prior to the close. Similar business, different market, so zero competition. So we met these guys just by renting them equipment, which they would then go and rent to their customers. Occasionally we'd get equipment from them, but we had a few more assets than they did. So just had time to build the relationship. But just
the date before you got married.
What's that?
You got the date before you got married. You dated.
Oh yes, I'm slow.
Yeah,
that was great. No, absolutely, we did absolutely. And so I would say knowing just there was always a desire to grow beyond Wichita, and it was like, hey, this is a good option. And so we got to have 4 years of conversation with these people, and my heart probably is more along the side of like, are they a good culture fit? So we had lots of opportunity to say, are they good fit or not? So the selection process was when I've listened to you guys talk to others that were looking for something, ours kind of just, we were looking to grow. We knew these guys were going to be selling at some point, and so that was pretty simple.
No, that's great. That's great. You talk about like the culture fit. I mean, what were some of the things that you identified in that business that helped you feel good that, hey, this is going to fit really well with the culture that we already have?
Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about the sellers first. Jack and Dixie Beery have been doing it for, I don't remember exactly the dates. I'm thinking it's around 25 years. They built and sold once and then started again. And they had the intention to sell to someone else, but that kind of changed through some circumstances. But I see a lot of similarities in the Beery family and mom and dad. So just kind of, you'll figure it out. I mean, Jack's a creative guy, knows a lot of people, knows how to make connections, reminds me a lot of my dad. Dixie was keeping track of all the invoicing and billing and all that, which is a lot like mom. So I saw the pairing that they had a lot of similarities. And then as we got to know them better, we got to know more and more. And there was a young man that was, young man, I talk like I'm an old guy now. I am 42. That was the first 2 years was really who I knew. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us, passed suddenly, unexpectedly. And I got to meet Jack the day that I learned that he was no longer alive. And so that definitely threw some things into like, okay, what do we do here? But I probably did a lot of the culture fit I mean, we would call each other on weekends, late at night, like, hey, what'd you guys do today? And so Ben was a phenomenal leader, knew the rental business well, and was really I saw a lot of myself in him. He wasn't Jack's son, but they had worked together for quite a while. And so although he's no longer part of it, the relationship I had with Ben told me a lot about the team out there. So then we had to learn to get to know the others, and like Jack decided to promote somebody inside of the business who is our current branch manager, doing a fantastic job. But yeah, I don't think you get to. A lot of times people come in and coach you and say, well, here's how you learn about culture. I'm like, just go talk to them, listen to what kind of questions they ask. But yeah, we feel super blessed with the type of culture that they already had, and we feel like it's meshed really well already in the early stages.
No, that's great. Were there other businesses that you looked at that you were thinking about acquiring, or was it just this one kind of came up at the right time and it all made sense?
One became available a little bit after this one was mentioned, but this one we have such a different relationship with, so really not a very good comparison. Also a rental business, so some similarities, but not really. Yeah.
Did that familiarity, that kind of long-standing relationship, I mean, did that help kind of build a really strong trust foundation for you and the seller?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it made it. I mean, we'd have to ask Jack, but it made it way easier for me, way easier for our team as we're evaluating it. But yeah, I think it's funny as I listen to some of the coaching that you guys have given others or other guests that you've had. I'm like, we didn't do that, and they're like, no, but we knew them.
Right.
We don't know everything, and guaranteed we missed some stuff, but we knew them, and we still know them, and we've only been together for 2 months and a week, but it's been phenomenal so far.
No, that's great.
Well, again, no one's process is the same. I mean, the way acquisitions happen, I mean, when we bought, Orange Theory, it was my wife worked there, and I cold called the owner and asked him, and it's like, that's how it kind of came together. It wasn't, every process is different. The way you get there is going to be different. But what matters is that you made, it was the right fit. You went through the process. You built the relationship. Honestly, like a lot of people would love to go through the situation you guys had. You knew them for 4 years. You worked with them closely for 4 years. You knew a lot about the business, and you knew that it was a great culture, and you guys could come and bring in Trinity style to, not saying you change everything, but you're able to bring Trinity in there and be able to probably now take it to the next level. So there's a lot of people would actually envy what you all went through in your process.
Oh, I'm extremely grateful for it, because I do think that made a lot of other aspects go better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of the lessons that you so you're 2 months and a week removed from it? what kind of lessons are you looking back now as you're kind of looking back and saying, okay, we're through it, we're moved on, we're integrated and everything. There's a lot of growth left. But what lessons do you feel like, what would you have done differently? Maybe that's the question.
Well, I don't want to give you guys too much credit, but some of the things that I listened to are just probably being a little bit more available when we were talking through some of the more challenging components. We got through it, and Jack was great to work with, but I probably could have been a little bit more available and just, we did some of it on the phone. I probably should have made a few more trips out there in person. We did. I mean, for 4 years, like when Holly and the girls and I go to Colorado, if we can, we go the south route and we'd stop and just see them for a bit. And that helped a ton. But I think in this society that we're in today, we resort to text messaging or phone calls, or if you do voice memos, and those are great, but there's no substitute for being in person, looking one another in the eye. Right. What they say, like 73% of communication's nonverbal. So we're missing out on the bulk of it by you can hear nuances and inflection and tone and things on a call, but being in person, I think, is worth a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's leading up to, and I would say we got some really good coaching. One of the guys on our leadership council at Trinity said, hey, we need someone out there in person once a week. It doesn't have to be the same person, but after the transaction, make sure that we're there in person. And honestly, that was one of the most enjoyable things that we did on date. So we closed on October 31st, and then, so that was right before the weekend so it would have been November 3rd was the first day. Mom and Dad and I drove out there, and Mom and Dad didn't know the team super well, but we were just there for a couple of days just to talk to them and be there. And I probably wouldn't have known that if I didn't have good advice, a good person in my corner saying, hey, we need to be intentional about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, some of the things that I draw away from that I think are really good for our listeners is trust is the currency that gets deals done. And one of the reasons that often you need a really robust due diligence process is because you don't have that long-standing relationship that you all did in this instance.
Yeah.
And, because we're always going to fill in the gaps as best we can, because there's always going to be gaps. Nobody's going to be perfect on, the disclosures or whatever else. And when you don't have that, when you have trust, you're often going to be in a position to be like, okay, well, I know these people. I know how they operate. I know enough to know that I don't know this, and maybe they don't know this either, but this is probably the case because, of how they run their business, the quality of people they are, or I'm not super worried about that because, I trust their integrity and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just, doing a deal with someone that you met for the first time during a search process, that's completely different.
Yeah.
There's no foundation outside of the deal context when they are trying to look their best for you.
Yeah.
When the deal process is the dating app, as opposed to like, we've been friends for a long time.
Swipe
and
right.
This just sort of happened just one day. We use the dating metaphor, but, and then to echo what you said about relationships, I mean, relationships is the conduit through which trust is exchanged. And if you don't have good relationships, or you limit the bandwidth of that conduit through things that are, inherently low density information exchange items like emails or text messages, as opposed to like the in-person, experience, like that's just going to inherently put a cap on it. And I can't, echo enough the idea that you don't just need relationships and getting to closing. Like, especially on the buy side, it is a, continued transition to really complete that exchange of value. Yeah. And if you're really intentional with it, you can experience some really exciting results that are really good for your company.
Well, and something with the industry you're in, it's all about relationships with
Absolutely.
the companies that you work with, you rent to, you sell to, those sort of things. But again, they were very ingrained into the Garden City community.
Yeah.
And so like you are taking that, and again, back to our conversation and our previous thing is passing the baton. They're passing the baton to you and entrusting you with the relationships that they have built and the community they've built within Garden City. And, and that's what you're taking on when a business like that, because, sometimes people have, when acquisitions come in, people think things change, they let people go, a lot of different stuff happen. But like you guys are taking this and saying, okay, we've been past this legacy, this legacy in this community, and what do we do with it? Jake and Sam here.
Thank you for joining us. If you find this content helpful, please like, subscribe, share it with a friend, and especially leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or iTunes. Really helps us out a lot.
Yeah, 1 star, it's on Sam.
Yeah, it's definitely on me.
Yeah. One thing you said, Sam, that I like, and it just popped up because I saw it last night. It's a Patrick Lencioni quote. when we work apart, the space between us fills up with assumptions. The only way to keep trust alive is to talk more, not less.
So me talking more is a good thing?
Yes.
We're all not excited because that's me.
Yeah. That's
and
powerful.
I think too, one thing I think of in that too, like, if we want to live in community, want to work and live with others and be with others, the goal is not to impose our will, but to slowly become more like one another. Like if we spend time together, I'm going to become like you and you're going to become like me. If I'm constantly thinking that I'm better than you, I'm not going to look to bring on the skills and the giftings that you have and make them part of my DNA. So I think as what we've looked at, like, we really believe that there's a lot of health in our Garden City location. And so we're like, what made them healthy? And before we go start changing a whole bunch of things, let's get to know them. I think, I don't know who said it, but it was Abraham Lincoln quote. He said, I don't like that man. I need to spend more time with him so I can get to know him. When we get frustrated, we run into challenges, sometimes our defenses come up as opposed to saying, wait a second, what can I learn?
No, I think that's so good. And I mean, some of the most successful buyers that I've seen have taken that kind of approach of, I'm going to go listen, I'm going to learn, and then I'm going to lead. And I think there's a lot of power in that, because I mean, your ability to create really high value decisions is heavily dependent upon the amount of information that you acquire. And if you don't go in and listen and learn, then your ability to complete that decision in a really productive way is inherently going to be capped based on the low amount of information that you actually have. And when you overlay that with a relational filter, your decision to come in and make leadership changes or directional changes or whatever else without taking the time to listen and learn is going to inevitably just run completely counter to a really positive, relational foundation, I think, with that business, because everybody's going to know that they weren't valued.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least that's the assumption they're going to come to. I mean, it's different if it's like, hey, this is on fire, let's go put out the fire. That's not what I'm talking about. This is like, you need to learn more why things are the way they are. And there's only so much of that you can get during due diligence. And you actually need to transition the relationships.
Yeah, I think so many people get caught up. We've talked about this many times. Is people get caught up in the deal and not the destination. I think, Sam, you've talked about this a lot. Yeah. And I think the destination is the most important. I mean, I'll use a real example of myself. When we bought Orange Theory, I'm, again, us being type 3s, achievers, like, let's go in there. Like, it was a when we bought it, we bought it from a absentee owner, and it was one that, needed a little bit of TLC, but there was a culture there. It wasn't probably the best one, but it was a culture that existed, and they didn't have an owner that was involved. And here I wanted to be here. I'm right here. Let's go. And that was actually to my detriment. And honestly, when COVID hit, was like this good hard reset we needed. I don't really want that to ever happen again. Nope. But it was a hard reset that put us in this place of like, hey, it made me realize that I was hurting the psychological safety of the leadership team that was in place already. And because I was just trying to, get in there and do all these different things versus actually realizing like, hey, I've inherited this. I need to listen. I need to be present. I need to do all these things. And again, back to being a talker, I needed to be a listener during that time.
Well, and when you think about it, like trust gets the deal done, like from a macro sense of getting you there, getting the closing, buying the business. But then it also extends on a micro level to all of those other relationships that you need to transition. And going in and taking people and saying, here's this big change that you need to absorb. Yeah. And now I'm going to go change all these other things. I think makes it much more complicated to extend that trust and establish the relationships through which that trust needs to continually flow. And I mean, on some level, that's what culture is made up of, is all of these connections through which we exchange trust and so many other things. And so I think taking that, like we said earlier, maybe this was before we were recording, like slow is smooth and smooth is fast sort of approach. If we have the right perspective and it's not hey, I got to have it right now all the time. And instead, hey, I'm willing to, to be humble, to say, hey, how can I use my 2 ears before I use my one mouth and learn and listen and then, move forward, allows that relationship, allows people to kind of adjust to the new normal, allows there to be an establishment of trust. And then once you have that trust, you can exchange that for progress through a shared vision there.
Yeah.
I'm doing too much talking and not
Yeah,
listening.
it was like as you well, it's like we're talking
Speaking
like
of which.
and it's like you have like because if you listen, I mean, if you subscribe to like, finance news and all that stuff, I mean, right now you have like Paramount who's trying to make a hostile takeover of like Warner Brothers and stuff like that, or whatever that is, because Netflix made this. But like people see that and it's like, and you see hostile takeover. So like everybody thinks like, oh, when acquisitions happen, it's like, there's negative connotations around it. But honestly, acquisitions are a great thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a husband and wife that were ready to transition, to retire. You and your family have a lot of ambitions to continue to take what you've done with Trinity and grow it in Western Kansas and probably beyond that as well. And that's where acquisitions are a great thing. You can take something that was beautiful that they built, and now you can take that and even grow it even more.
Yeah.
And I think that so many times people think, within acquisitions, and if you read, the finance news again, it's negativity, not necessarily positivity.
I would add too, I mean, I read a lot and different people would say like when you're interviewing someone to see if they want them to be a part of your team, like one question you should ask yourself is, do you like them? If you don't like them, are you going to want to see them every day?
Yeah.
And so as you're looking at an acquisition, like who's on the team that you're like, I want to look forward to seeing that person.
Yeah.
And so I had a great relationship with Ben. I miss him. Great guy. Like I'm sad that he's not on the earth anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I liked getting to know Jack. I liked getting to know Dixie. And the team I remember like Andy is our ops guy at Trinity. He and I took several trips out there over the last year. And one of the days we were coming back, driving together, I was like, man, I got to look forward to going back and seeing those people, not just Jack and Dixie, but John, the branch manager, and the rest of the team. And like what was super cool too, and I'll just, this little tangent, but we had someone make a video to honor mom and dad's legacy at Trinity. And it just happened that it worked out to be done like 3 days before our Wichita Christmas party. Well, 4 or 5 weeks before that, we said, hey, John, would you want to would you guys want to come? Like, I know you guys have a Garden City Christmas party, but would anybody want to come to Wichita? And he's like, let me see. And we had some conversation. Well, like 12 out of 14 of our Garden City employees were able to make it.
That's great.
And we got to experience this whole thing together as a team, and they were looking forward to it, and we were looking forward to it. So now, like, literally, that was like a month after this closed, and I don't know that we would have had that opportunity to get all 49 people together. I guess we had 47. 2 of them missed it. But like, if you don't look forward to seeing the people, like, to me, that seems like it might be somewhat challenging to like, well, I got to go work with these people. I don't really like them, but
it's like you don't want to have Sunday scaries, and like, and that's the one thing. It's like you don't want to have Sunday scaries, and that's where you hope you create an environment that no one else in your organization has Sunday scaries.
Yeah, no, that's good. Lance, when you look at like, hey, this was your first time through an acquisition process, and as a company, right? And then for the seller, this was their second time, right? Because they'd sold a business prior. But that prior was how long before? Like,
I think 10 to 12 years roughly, if I'm not thinking, if I'm thinking correctly. Yeah.
Okay. So not super experienced sellers, right? What was that? How did that impact the process?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like everybody was going through, it was real smooth, or was it like, hey, there's a lot of scaries, there's a lot of work involved? Because especially for folks that haven't been through it or haven't been through it a long time, it's so much work. Like, you're taking a life's work often and you're exchanging it in a single transaction. And sometimes people miss just how much work goes into it. And that can add a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, a lot of strain. But you already had this pre-existing relationship. But talk to us a little bit about, how you felt like that dynamic worked, and then how you all kind of continue to work through that as everybody went through sort of the normal process that the deals inevitably create.
Yeah. So it did help that mom and dad sold once. So I knew a little bit of what it looked. I mean, I was in their house. I was in high school at the time. So I remember some of the things that they said, what it felt like to be on the sell side. But I would say I also learned in this process, the way that we approached the purchase was way different than the company that purchased our seller's previous business. They were just kind of like, hey, here's a number, boom, boom, boom. And like, there wasn't a lot of intentionality. We actually wore them out of it. At one point, Jack's like, you're sure asking a lot of questions. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, we just really want to know.
Right.
And so like, they were patient with us. We probably slowed down once we got to the point where we were looking at things more than they did. They're like, yeah, we're ready to go. some of that too, I'm sitting here thinking, man, I want to honor their legacy. Like we're not just saying, okay, now you're Trinity. It's like, no, what did it look like when you guys were Big L? Because they were Big L both times. And like, we haven't completely changed out branding yet. The team out there seems like they're ready. And Jack and Dick's like, yeah, go ahead and change it whenever you're ready. But I wanted to have the question be like, we want to do it because we do have a lot of pride in the identity of where we're going, but we also want to honor where you come from because we are adopting you into the family that we're trying to build. And not everybody talks about business like family, but for me, it's been family for 42 years. Like since birth, mom and dad have looked at it as we run this like a family, and they did too. They really treated their employees well in so many ways. What was the question? Deal one to deal two.
Oh no, how did
like
unsophisticated
inexperienced side,
the limitations on experience, but how did because there's inevitably a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, a lot of strain on the process, and how did you all kind of work through that? Because sometimes what happens is people allow that pressure to create unproductive friction, and then they lose sight of the trust that got them there in the first place, and it ends up breaking the deal as opposed to being something that everybody just kind of navigates through and works through. And so how did you all sort of make it through those sort of inevitable ups and downs of the process?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for restating that. We had a great team on our side, and people that had been, we had a friend that had been part of business that had bought 5 businesses in 5 years and integrated them. And so he came and just sat in some of our conversations to talk about acquisition and integration. A guy on our internal team had some experience with that at Coke Industries. And then our attorney has done a few as well. So I felt so blessed with the information that I had at our disposal. I think, because they'd done it before, Jack was pretty confident. I don't know that he had as many inputs on his side. It kind of sounded like maybe it was more they were kind of navigating it. There were a couple of times we had a conversation where I was like, that probably would be a good opportunity to get some input. And I think it ended up happening at a later time. But you guys talk about this a lot, like who are your go-tos? And I would say, I would say having the people that I could go to, because I'm a complete rookie. Hey, what do we do with this? I mean, I can talk about what I see in front of me, but until you've gone through an experience like that, you are a rookie. And I would say if I did one today, I'd still be a rookie because there'd be some differences as well. But having trusted people. Fortunately, our attorney is my brother-in-law. I love him. I trust him.
That's good.
And little tangent, super cool. He did a great job. And didn't ever tell my sister anything, didn't tell my niece and nephew anything. And we just had Christmas at mom and dad's house. And I got to praise him in front of his wife and kids for his participation. Cool, and he kind of stopped and he's like, yeah, guys, I swore an oath and I keep all this stuff private. So I can talk about it because it's my news to share. So again, super thankful for Vince and that and the whole team. That's cool. You need people around you more than you know. I would summarize it with that.
Oh yeah. No, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. For our listeners that maybe haven't listened to each of our episodes, first go back and listen to each of our episodes. They're all gold. But
all 59 of them.
But we have a kind of a working theory here that all value is the result of decisions, and you want to create great value, you've got to make great decisions. And decisions have kind of 3 core components. You have clear priorities. Like if you really know where you're going, you know where to align everything after that. You need really good information, and you need the right set of experience and expertise to kind of integrate and apply that information to those priorities to complete that decision. And when you go into a decision, as many of us do as business owners, it's one thing to be like, hey, I'm going to figure this out on this operational thing or this day-to-day decision. It's another to approach one of the biggest transactions of your life and bring that same mindset to, I'm going to go acquire the information independently. I'm going to be the inherent limiter on the experience and the expertise. And so there you've inherently limited 2 of your critical components to creating a great decision. And so, all of this to say, like, when you build a really experienced team around you, they're going to enhance the value that only you can bring, because now you're going to be able to devote more of your time to those decisions, to those relationships that only you can do. And so really find those trusted people around you. Find those folks that have bought 5 businesses, that have integrated them, that are going to bring all that practical experience, all of that, all that tangible wisdom. Get your experienced attorneys, get your great CPAs, your tax advisors, and the other folks that are going to really help you, make these great decisions. Because if you do it alone, you're putting a cap on it.
Yeah. You talk about trust. 2 things that stand out to me that have just been thinking on a lot in the last year. I have a great mentor, Darren, works with us at the business, and he says there's only one test to find out if you can trust someone. You know what it is? You got to trust them. There's no other way to know that you can trust someone until you actually trust them. And I think leaders struggle with that a lot.
Right.
Like, I want to trust someone, but I don't know how. And then I was talking to a friend this morning again. So we've heard trust but verify. Great statement. Right. I prefer trust and verify, because I think when you put but in there, Dad was my Sunday school teacher when I was 10. When you talk, anything you say before the word but, just ignore it. It didn't happen. Now I'm going to tell you what I really think. So when I say trust and verify, it's like, I trust you. And because I trust you, I want to see how you do with this trust that I'm giving you. I have to actually give the trust, or I'll never know if you handled it well.
Right.
Yeah, I had a mentor that said, you give someone trust, don't make them gain it.
Yeah. I like the coupling of those two, trust and verify. And you were talking about this earlier. I can't remember if it was in between the recordings or on this one, but about, giving somebody room and grace to fail. Failure in a wrong context, through the wrong perspective, is a stigma that I think a lot of people carry around, and it causes a lot of indecision. It puts inherent growth limiters on us as people and as organizations. But failure as a teacher becomes this huge accelerant for learning and growth, and putting people in a high trust environment where you've extended that trust and they know, hey, I'm going to be around to help you be able to get the most out of this trust, I think is a hugely powerful thing from a culture perspective, and from a growth perspective. And so
that's good.
Kudos to you for, doing it well. Something I'm curious about is, this is just more of like a tangible, kind of quasi-technical topic. You bought a business, didn't have the same brand as you, of course.
Correct.
And you're navigating that sort of change of, hey, we've got, a brand we really like. We've got the, legacy brand that's there. We want to honor that. How does that kind of factor into the deal process and kind of the go forward decision making, as people, a lot of people that are looking at growing through acquisition are going to face those same kind of challenges and conversations of, what do I do with this brand? How do I honor these people? How do we lead this into the future? And just any additional, technical thoughts that you have on that is, I think, will be very valuable to our listeners.
Yeah. So, got a good friend, Ryan Wallace. He really, he was a good friend growing up. We still go to church together. He's pastor at the church that I attend, and he, as well as the whole staff, does a really good job talking about honor. And we were meeting a couple of years ago, and he talked about how Reliance has really started an honor culture. And so for me, honor is always is becoming increasingly more important. Like, want to honor someone and see where do they come from and how did they become who they are. So I kind of get the impression that we maybe tried to honor too much in this instance, because every time I talk to Jack, he's like, oh no, just go ahead and take it off. I don't know that that's wrong. Right. To attempt to honor as much as possible. Like, hey, here's what we're wanting to do, and just kind of letting you know. There's probably others that would be even more, oh, you're not gonna use my name anymore. So you guys can answer better. Like, how many times do people retain the brand versus adopting it? Like, we knew that we would like to change branding, but is that a common thing? Like, do people keep it a lot of times and just keep running it?
I think it just depends on the situation. I mean, if it's a legacy brand that it's very, very well known in, and it's a staple that it's if you want to bring now you got to build a strategy around changing that brand and everything too. But it really depends case by case basis.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think of it this way. Your brand ultimately becomes your proxy for your culture and the value exchange that you have with all of your stakeholders. And the more brands you have, the more limited the power of that singular brand is. And if you have a common business, a lot of times it makes sense that, hey, this is going to be the same brand. Some businesses, it's like, hey, this is a different business.
Yeah.
This is a different business, and it just doesn't have that same power or that same relevance. But I think the folks that I've seen it do it well have a clear sense of what they want to do, or at least the optionality they want to have going into the process, so they can be purposeful with those conversations. Because I think especially when you're buying a closely held business, there's a lot of personal identity wrapped up in things. And sometimes that personal identity is very anchored to the brand.
Yeah.
And if your seller, especially if you need your seller to kind of stick around for transition of value, and you then all of a sudden go yank down the thing that they were anchoring their personal identity to, and that wasn't a conversation that was had, that wasn't something that was understood, I mean, that can create a lot of relational damage that's avoidable versus going in and having a clarity of like, hey, yeah, we want to find a way to honor it. Let's figure out what that is. But it's not going to be a permanency of the brand. Yeah. Because I think once people, the relational damage is all about like unmet expectations, I think, and things that are valued. But I like the spirit of honoring the legacy. I think that's important. I think it's an important part of the transition. And some people like are really attached and it means a lot to them. And other people, it's just like, man, I don't care. Like, what do you want to do? It's your business now. Right. And I think, when somebody tells you that and you think that they're being honest with themselves and honest with you, I think it's a great thing to be like, all right, we don't have to continue that piece. We can continue to complete this transition, and that's still an honoring thing for them.
I think that helps a little bit too. Say we certainly desire to have additional locations. Now, I've got some pretty big dreams, so I'm not going to say them out loud in case they don't happen. But
name it and claim it,
right? We definitely would love to do some additional locations when the timing is right. We want to integrate well and make sure that our operational model works. So from that perspective, we have contractors in Wichita that work in Western Kansas. So it makes a lot of sense for us to have one brand for that's the same logo, same people. You can order it from either location. And then as we think of building that beyond just two locations, maybe that's even beyond Kansas someday. Having that consistency of brand, I think, makes a lot of sense for us because we're serving the same industry in different areas. So as long as Jack was okay with it, that was always going to be our desire. And he made it pretty easy. So that did help because he was like, you it's yours. You do what you want. So, but yes, we did have the conversation, and I think that was helpful.
Yeah. And I think for our listeners that are out there, whether you're on the buy side or the sell side, don't leave important things unexpressed. Like once that deal's done, a lot of the legal rights are locked in, but also a lot of the just practical expectations. And so if you have something, especially if it's really important to you, even if it doesn't feel like a deal term, even if you feel like somebody's going to think that's silly or whatever, like get over that. Make that list. Talk to somebody who knows you really well. Talk to more than somebody that knows you really well. Talk to people that know about the deal process to help you find that right list. Because once, your best chance to get it is before the deal's done, and to be able to express to somebody like, hey, this is what I want. Like, and then you can work it out. But after the deal's done, somebody else has already spent money in a particular direction based on their understanding and expectations. And going back and be like, no, I'd really like you to keep my name around. Like, that's really hard for that person at that point because they've already made an exchange with you, using that as an example.
I think that ties into unmet expectations well, too. And we talked about on the last recording more like on the family side of things as a kid, when you don't meet your parents' expectations, sometimes you don't give a rip because you're a kid. But sometimes
you shouldn't have had that expectation in the first place.
Right? But sometimes
like it's on you, Dad.
I mean, I could see my kids saying that. They did this morning, probably. There's also times that we don't understand. And so, and I think so, I feel like there's so many parallels to raising kids and working as a team. Like if I haven't articulated, that's why we need to talk about goals. We need to talk about expectations. If we have we've unspoken expectations, it's going to be really hard for the other person to land where I want them to land. And if I'm not curious to know what someone else's expectations, no matter where we're at in the org chart and the hierarchy, if I'm not curious, the new employee that's been at work for 30 minutes, if I'm not curious about what their expectations are, there's a good chance that I'm not going to meet those. So I think just having those conversations and thinking through, maybe I need to learn a little bit. Maybe I need to be curious.
Yeah, no, I mean, ask great questions, get great answers. I want to go back to something really quick because I think it's an important point. If you're on the sell side, especially, you're going to be on the receiving end of the vast majority of the questions because you have the most information to share. I mean, the buyer at the table is most likely giving you predominantly cash as opposed to some other thing that's very tangible. Like, how many dollars is it? Did it land in the bank? Right.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the buyer is getting this very complex asset, right? With a lot of moving pieces and people and variability and dynamism and all of these other things that I can use to say the exact same thing. It changes a lot. But it has an unpredictability to it. And in order for a buyer to feel really confident that they're making a good decision on this thing that has a high degree of variability, they need a lot of information. And so don't confuse curiosity with concern, and don't let it make you feel overly defensive on things. This is where, again, getting wise counsel from people who know and can tell you, yeah, that's normal. Like this is a normal thing. This is what you should expect. They're not trying to just figure out how they can twist the knife on deal terms and get as much out of you. This is like they legitimately want to make a good decision and run a good business here and take good care of your employees. And what are they going to do without that information?
Yeah.
Right. And it's always more questions than you may feel comfortable with or than you think are necessary. And partly because we have proximity bias or familiarity bias. Like if you're running your business, you know all the things.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a tendency to assume that other people, even if they're in the same space, are going to know all the things too. And that's just not a fair expectation. So get ready, buckle up, do a good job, and share the information. It's gonna be good for you. All right. Now that I'm done telling people how to live their lives for the next couple of minutes, we're about out of time here. Lance, thanks for another great conversation. We really appreciate you sharing your experiences and your wisdom. I really love how you bring this spirit of honor to the process, not only to the family transition, but also to honoring a seller's legacy. I think that's a wonderful heart and mindset to bring to things. As we close out here, what is a great tip that you would have for buyers and a great tip that you would have for sellers as you reflect on your deal experiences that you would hope that they would take away to help have a great deal process?
So I'm going to pick two for both.
Yeah, that's great.
Still just two.
Yep.
I think the first would say is don't take it personal. It's really easy to do. And it kind of where you were just talking about, like, I even say, like, have someone, whether on your deal team or we didn't have any fancy terms like that. It was just the people that I was talking to that is very unemotional about the situation. And then it's also okay to have someone else that might be very emotional and get their perspective. So know who that you're going to, but don't take it personal, and then really find out who you can trust. Go into that, ask them questions, and make sure that whoever is part of who you're going to speak to wants to be a part of it. They're excited, and find out what your weaknesses are, and make sure that someone around you has an ability to complement those weaknesses. If you think you don't have any weaknesses, you've got another problem. But if you start figuring out those weaknesses so you can have someone to help you fill those gaps, because you do. At the end of the day, we all are better in a team. We'll all accomplish more together than we will on our own. And then make it fun when you do it together.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're consumed with addressing your weaknesses, you'll never maximize your strengths.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Thank you, Lance. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. To all of our listeners and viewers, I should say thank you to our viewers. We are on video.
We're on YouTube.
I assume people are watching us on video to see our handsome faces all the time. If not, you should check it out on YouTube or other platforms because we're cool and we're paying for video, and so you should watch it, not while you're driving. That'd be dumb. But thank you for tuning in and checking it out. We really appreciate all the hard work that you're doing to make our communities a better place, because we know that when great deals happen, communities thrive. So keep up the great work. It matters. You're making a difference. Lead your teams well, lead your families well, and have a great deal. Thank you for joining us today. For future episodes, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And please check out our website at www.goforemanlaw.com/learning.